Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the December 8th edition of Beyond the Headlines. My name is Colin Dowe, and I'll be serving as your host yet again this evening. I begin as I begin every week. Thank you so very much for joining us. Thanking you for being a part, or allowing us to be a part of your Monday evening. So whether you're looking to us on GBN Television, listening on GBN Radio, or any of our social media platforms, we're honored to have you join in this discussion. And this evening we're getting an official update on Project Polaris. There's been lots of conversations, lots of excitement, lots of anticipation, and with us this evening is Ambassador Andrea St. Bernard to share. Andrea, welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here, and a very good evening to all of your viewers and listeners.
We're extremely excited because this is big. And well, heavy is the head that wears the crown. So now we're seeing the head upon which the crown has been placed in order to deliver for us on the Project Polaris. Just as we start the conversation, though, I'm curious, what inspired the name? If you can give us some background, because this one was pulled out of the hat, it seems. So
it's a great starting place because there is meaning behind Project Polaris. Project Polaris is the North Star. And so the idea behind Project Polaris, or the genesis, the reason we began Project Polaris, is because we know we need to and have to have a focus to improve healthcare in Grenada. Bricks and mortar won't improve a healthcare system, but we've called the project Polaris because we are using it as our North Star. And the bricks and the mortar and building of a new infrastructure facility, climate smart, resilient teaching hospital with all of the latest information technology advantages, etc., will be the North Star that guides us as we do everything that's necessary to transform the healthcare system and healthcare service delivery in Grenada.
It's interesting that this conversation takes place in December. There have been some following of the North Stars and our culmination of our celebrations towards the ending of December likewise. You are the project sponsor. What is that? What does that role entail?
It means you're responsible. I am ultimately the government representative responsible for delivery of the project. I report directly to a subcommittee of cabinet ministers. A project of this nature is quite large, and it's a whole of government effort that's necessary. And it really moves across several ministries and takes coordination and effort from across ministries. And so to be able to deliver on a project of this magnitude with this level of coordination, the cabinet of ministers determined that the best way to do that was to have a dedicated delivery unit that could really lead the project as a project independent of what the regular operations and needs and obligations of the ministries are. And so to lead that delivery unit, we created the position called project sponsor, which just means the lead government official responsible to reporting to the cabinet of ministers, as you said, to deliver on what is a government priority project.
Okay. And who are your partners in this unit driving this process?
Right, so the Project Polaris Delivery Unit is made up of myself as the project sponsor. We have a permanent secretary who is on assignment to help us with our coordination and movement throughout the government ministries, and that is Deputy Permanent Secretary Ms. Siobhan Tellisford-Britton, Deputy Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, Ms. Siobhan Tellisford-Britton. We have a project consultant, which has been with us, engaged by the government of Grenada for a couple years now, leading this project, the strategic guidance of the project, and that is the Darasami Group, which is led by Mr. Damien Dolland. And we are building out that delivery unit as we move through the phases. Most importantly, as we move now into our construction phase, we've got a technical advisor also who's been working with us for quite some time, but we really need to now beef up our technical capacity for proper oversight of the construction component, for example.
Okay, so you started off lean and mean in the 3-person core group, and you will add as needed as you move from one dimension to the next for delivery on the project.
indeed, it'll take a lot more hands to make the project happen, and there are other support components or persons who have been working with the delivery unit. Ms. Kamika Donald also, who hailed from the Ministry of Finance, has been working with us in the Project Polaris team as well, and as I said, we had and also a technical advisor who has helped through the initial components of selecting our longer-term strategic partners for the construction phases of the project. And so yes, as we move through the phases, we have to identify the necessary technical capacity that we need and make sure that we have, all the necessary components and technical input to be able to continue to lead and manage the project through the many phases that it has.
Okay. Prime Minister is quoted as saying the transformation of our healthcare system is the single most important priority of his administration. If you can share what is the overarching vision, again, and just reinforce and expand the overarching vision of Project Polaris.
Right. So it's not a new vision to, obviously, it's near and dear to the hearts of Grenadians that we want to see improved healthcare. Clearly, the healthcare system is not good enough for any of us. The idea to use a new general hospital as part of the pillar of strengthening the healthcare system is also not new. And so since 2012, the previous NDC government would have commissioned a feasibility study that was done by the IFC, which is an arm of the World Bank. They completed a feasibility study which concluded that a necessary component for strengthening the healthcare system in Grenada was to indeed build a new modern general hospital in a more accessible location. That was one of the key elements of what the feasibility study determined. Concluding, of course, that the existing hospital is no longer fit for purpose. It's not in an area that allows us to expand. It's not in an area that's easily accessible to the Tri-Island state, to most of the Tri-Island state. It's not fit for information technology or digital upgrades, etc. And so that's a long-standing study that's been on the shelf, and we've known about it, and the push to see this hospital happen has begun before. And so I think it was clear to this administration that was something that we had to see through, and understanding that a new hospital was a pillar to strengthening healthcare. That became then a significant push. It's a pillar, it's not the only answer. And so again, we go back to the North Star. So we use the North Star to guide us, or to be the guiding point to which we want to reach, at which we'll have a better institution as well as better healthcare delivery.
Okay. How do we anticipate Grenada's healthcare being transformed with this Polaris?
Right, so then we start looking at what do we need to do to get to the end game. And the end game is we open a new hospital that has good healthcare delivery. Well, what do we need to get to good healthcare delivery? So the starting point, it's very interesting, because as we began looking for our strategic partners for the long term, we also took the very strategic and I think critical decision that we needed to start working now on quality improvement and service delivery. And so we both embarked on a process to find a partner who could walk with us over the long term, because it's a journey to strengthen healthcare. And we need help and guidance. We need to strengthen and uplift our standards and skills of our local medical professionals. And we need a lot of systems and organization strengthening as well. And so as we embarked on a search to find the right long-term strategic partner, part of our engagement with potential long-term strategic partners was understanding how they could start immediately to work with our existing general hospital to do quality improvement. And that has begun. And so it was quite a process to ultimately determine Mount Sinai was the right partner for Grenada, both for the long term, but also quite critically for the last 9 to 10 months they've been working at the general hospital Hospital working on quality care improvement initiatives. And so we have that long-term partnership with an international health system that is invested in working with us to see over time our healthcare service and quality really improve to a level that, again, when we reach the point of having a new institution and we open the doors, we can boast indeed excellent healthcare.
Okay. We're informed that the new facility should be a 250-bed facility. Is that sufficient in your estimation? It seems like a small number, but I don't know what the number of hospitalizations typically will be, the number or the length of stay, etc. So is 250 a good point for us?
So based on the studies, it is sufficient to manage the population of Grenada. Currently, we have a bed count of about 212.
Okay.
And so we are doing no less than what the existing general hospital has. And we're quite confident also that as we improve healthcare service, we will improve efficiencies that will actually allow us to need less beds for the same amount of service that's happening at the existing general hospital. So the starting point is more than enough to service the population of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. And then it has the opportunity for expansion as the hospital, then providing excellent health care to the people of Grenada, will have the opportunity to grow its reputation and offer also health care as a tourism product.
I'm hearing two things. 250 beds compared to 212 beds, not a lot in terms of volume. We have sometimes heard maternity ward that there's insufficient number of beds. Mm-hmm. But I'm hearing from you that with the strengthening of the system, we will cut down on hospital stays. We will cut down on the average stay, and therefore there isn't a need for a huge increase in the actual number of beds. In other words, we should not be as sick, and certainly not sick for as long as we are now with the strengthening of the system. Is this a correct interpretation as to why only 250 and not say 350?
I think that's the starting point, yes. Mm-hmm. So the planning of the new hospital, the design of the new hospital is based first upon a clinical service program. And so we would have started from the population of Grenada, the demographics of Grenada, what information we do have, which isn't enough because we don't have real-time data collection, and one of the problems that we're solving for. But starting with the information that we have and knowing what we need in Grenada, we start with a clinical service program that has what are the essential services that we have to be able to provide. So certainly on day one of opening, the hospital will be offering all the services that the general hospital provides, moving patients over. What are then, and this is in consultation now with our strategic partners, experts who are running health care systems in other places in the world and achieving world-class standards. And they're now advising us, in addition to the essential services, what are the recommended services to service your population best, based on what are the demographics, again, the needs of the population, but also from a clinical perspective, the most strategic opportunities to strengthen healthcare overall. So they help us to build this, and then also a column or a plan for the strategic services. And so on day one, we will offer all the services that are currently offered, plus a few additional.
And I certainly would want you to be able to elaborate a little bit, because we're in great anticipation here. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the services targeted for the new facility? So
we want to target the areas of greatest concern in Grenada. So there is some focus on cardiac treatment, as well as some forms of oncology treatment, which we've been lacking in Grenada. We won't be able to cover all services and all specialty services, but again, the plan is that over time we can phase in additional services, and so we have to start those plans now to understand how is the best way and when is the best time to be able to add in those additional services and position our design and building also accordingly.
Okay, so So, sometimes what we know because of the demographics of our population, diabetes, hypertension, of course, those impact us. But the results of those ailments would be the cardiac problems that we see, and hence you see cardiology will be one of the things that will be emphasized. We're all scared of the big C, and therefore oncology will become important. And this is what I'm hearing, just as a starter, being important for us to have day one on the opening of the facility.
Indeed.
The other thing that would be of concern, or certainly would raise curiosity, would be our ability to staff the new facility. We import healthcare professionals today, and let's just zero in on the day one priorities. So all the services that we are offering today, with an outlook of adding on some aspects of oncology along with cardiology. How confident are we that we'll be able to staff this new facility given the challenges that we have had in dealing with the old?
So we're confident because it's a part of the challenge that we know we have to meet, and we have to make a plan to be able to address that challenge. And it's not, it's a multi-pronged approach to addressing such a challenge, because it's not a challenge, again, that's unique to Grenada. Shortages in healthcare professionals is a challenge across the globe, really. And so we have to be creative and aggressive in understanding and meeting this challenge. It will include upskilling our existing healthcare professionals and giving them every opportunity to continue to shine. It will include having more targeted education to ensure that we grow more medical professionals, specifically in the areas that we know that we need them. So, for example, this year the government would have announced scholarships, new scholarships at SGU, 30 new medical doctor scholarships at SGU, which is significant, and it's not accidental. It's part of the government's focused approach on making this a success for all Grenadians to enjoy and prosper from. So certainly, again, starting from the clinical service plan and understanding what are the services, the next plan that we would have made on top of that is what is the human resource plan to be able to deliver those services. And now the next steps include really doing an audit of the skills and professionals that we have at the existing hospital, understanding how we can work with them to become better professionals for the new hospital, but then also identifying the gaps and knowing what do we really need as far as additional professionals. Mm-hmm. Additional medical professionals, you can't make them overnight.
Correct.
And so again, you need a multi-pronged approach to addressing that. So for example, recruiting professionals from another country is not something we should be afraid of. We need to address shortages that we have today. And so if we can get highly trained medical professionals from Ghana or anywhere else in the world who are willing to come and work with us in Grenada, that's an excellent part of the solution to our healthcare medical professional shortage.
I am aware that there has been an HR audit, I believe, probably zeroed in on the physician side. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that? What are some of the things or areas that have jumped out at you? Are those consistent with the needs and priorities of Project Polaris?
So I'm not sure the exact study that you are referring to, but as I said, we are looking at the HR gaps and needs comprehensively, again, right, with our strategic partners, and also bringing on additional capacity to help in that regard. Health HR professionals who can help us to really go through this transition. But it's not just going to be the recruiting. Of course, we also have to, as I said, really train our locals and give the opportunity for what are going to be excellent jobs and career opportunities. But it'll take time.
You have the opportunity now to share. 60+% of our population is below age 30, and we always talk of not just unemployment but underemployment, particularly among our youth and our male. Do we have any indication, and if you can share, as to some of the jobs that will be needed, not just today, but also when we open our doors of Project Polaris?
So I think I would want to come back or share that in a more detailed and comprehensive way, but I would say even before we get to opening the doors. And so, I mean, the HR service plan, it lists about 1,500 persons needed to operate the hospital, and these aren't all medical professionals. This goes through the entire operation of the hospital, from janitorial staff, facilities management, the kitchen. So there's a lot of work.
And we're talking smart IT professionals.
IT professionals, absolutely. And so we do have, as I say, the HR services plan that matches the clinical services plan and the aspirations of the IT capabilities of the building. High level, and we're breaking that down. And so again, this is where we have to work across several ministries and the private sector to try and coordinate and find where are the opportunities, what are the challenges, and where are the opportunities for us to really address that.
Let me ask you, what is the current staffing at the General Hospital?
Number?
Yeah, broad strokes.
Ooh, broad strokes, I don't know that we have that I know the exact number about that. Again, I think that's part of where the focus is on now.
Is it 300, 400, 500?
The staff is overall over 1,000, so the gap isn't twice as many staff
that's
as the existing hospital, but certainly there's a gap.
Right, yeah. Okay, and that's because there are new jobs and there are new ways of doing old jobs. So there's two ways of staffing here.
Exactly.
By additional people coming on and by adding skills to current folks.
Exactly.
So I was just trying to identify how many new heads and certainly what are the new skills required.
Right, but you can imagine or appreciate that then the work to be done isn't just counting heads. Right. It's matching all those components. What are the existing skill sets and what are the needed skill sets, and how do we make sure that we can transition into what's necessary?
Okay. That's the human side. How are we going to equip this spanking new facility?
Sorry, did you say equip?
Equip.
Right. Okay. So equipment is also a very specialized component. Right? So what we're attempting to do here is certainly unprecedented for Grenada. We don't have any such facilities. Our current existing hospital doesn't have the level of equipment and sophistication in that regard. And so part of our plan and our next step is to find our contractor. And the contractor that we're searching for, the model that we would look for, is a design, build, and maintain contractor, which means we want someone who's going to stay with us at least for a period of time and actually have a regular maintenance schedule, because we know what we're putting into the building is bespoke, highly sophisticated equipment. And so we're going to need to both train persons. Well, first we need experts who can properly identify, procure, and install the right equipment, but then also stick with us to make sure that we have adequate maintenance so that we can really protect the asset once we've made the investment.
Okay, so the outfit will design, build, and maintain, and that's a word that we typically don't hear at all in Grenada, the whole idea of maintenance. Okay, so design, build, maintain. Still coming in though, so will the contract be as such as this institution, this outfit, will be spending their monies up front and recouping on the back end, or do we have to contract for those services as they design, as they build, and as they are kept on tenure to maintain?
Indeed. So they would be a service provider in that regard, and we would be shortly going out with our official RFP to procure that design, build, maintain contractor, who would then come on to start doing the construction or complete our design, implement our construction, and as we spoke about, stick with us for at least a period of time to implement a maintenance schedule. Funding,
of course, will always be a big thing, because if we're going to go out now, because it's time for somebody to get paid, right? Or has there been an identified ratio between what will be grant funding, what will be loans, in order for us to be able to attract this right partner and make sure that there's bricks and mortar on the ground?
Yeah, so that's an area we've been working on for quite some time to secure financing as step 1, and then to secure better financing as step 2, and then even as step 3 and 4 to still continue to try and secure better financing. So that's to say that it's a process that has involved a full scope of all available financing. But of course, we want the best possible financing. So we are very close to finalizing our financing. We'll be able to make those announcements, I expect, in the next couple months. And we believe that we will, our negotiations and discussions are leading us to seek financing that is within our concessionality requirements, so highly concessional level debt in the first instance, as well as looking for grant opportunities and philanthropic contributions.
Can just mention, because I'm going to come back to the ratios, but can we have a sense as to what is the overall cost of this hospital? And I'm zeroing in on the hospital. We can speak of other aspects of the complex later on. But what is the overall cost that we're looking at, and what would be the sweet spot? Now, we can't get 100% in grant financing, so what really would be the sweet spot between concessionary loans, grant, and any philanthropic donations that we'll be able to attract?
So the budget that we're working with is for the construction of the hospital is $250 million US.
Okay. And that's build and equip so that we can open doors to the public.
Correct.
Right. $250 million US. Quarter million US.
Correct. The sweet spot is, of course, we want it all free, but we can't get there. It's hard to, I guess, just set your ratio and say that's what we have to achieve before getting there. And so I can't really tell you what is the ratio until we get there, because as I said, it's an ongoing process. We secure financing, and then you can get better financing, and you do, and so there are various conversations going on in.
And that's why the question really was, what would be, as you sit in your strategic sessions, saying this would be our ideal spot. We have to raise some monies. We have to pay for the monies that we're getting.
Right.
But if we do this well, this is our gold standard, and then there'll be fluctuations. But what is that gold standard?
I don't know that that I could say that there's an exact ratio that would set the gold standard. I mean, yeah, it would be out of turn for me to say that there's a particular ratio that set the gold standard. What I would say is there's definitely parameters around what is acceptable debt and not acceptable debt in the first instance. So as I said, sticking within the World Bank's concessionality requirements is
in terms of
highly strict rate of borrowing,
right.
Exactly. So that we are very much focused on that component, and then, as I say, we can move on to then, as we secure the financing, really see what are the ratios that we're left with. But we'll be back to talk about the details on the financing as we finalize.
No problem. So we've heard the vision. We've heard how we anticipate staffing. We have heard our approach to the building, and some on the financing. I want us to speak about the management of the facility, but it's time for our first break. So let's take the first break, and when we come back, we'll be speaking of how will this new facility be managed. Viewers and listeners, we'll be back shortly.
This holiday season, let the Monica Benoit Wonderland of Lights lead the way to Christmas at the Point. Starting November 30th, the Quarantine Point Recreational Park transforms into a glowing wonderland with dazzling light displays that are the true showstoppers of the season. Take a magical tuk-tuk tunnel ride through twinkling arches. Explore Santa's grotto, cozy up with a picnic blanket under the stars, and savor delicious eats from local vendors. Entry is just $5 for walk-ins, $10 per carload, and $20 for premium carload parking. Plus, grab a cozy picnic blanket for only $40 and enjoy the season in style. Special pricing applies for New Year's Eve. Visit our Instagram or Facebook pages at Rotary Club of Grenada Events for more details. It's holiday fun for the entire family every night from 5 p.m. till midnight, and it all supports the charitable work of the Rotary Club of Grenada. Christmas at the Point. When the sun sets, the wonder begins. Mark your calendars. It all begins November 30th.
When looking for household hardware, material, and lumber, the place to visit is JTRG Grenada Limited, Depredin Street, Grove, St. John. They offer from plumbing and electrical fixtures to windows and doors, garden tools, toilet seats, linoleum, carpet, and paint. They also sell young chicken, broilers, layers, and turkey. And rest assured that all your items will be delivered to your doorsteps free of cost. JTRG for all your household, hardware, and lumber material. Shop at JTRG today. For more information, call 444-8239.
You've asked for it and we've delivered. Shop and Save Supermarket at Victoria Street, Grenville, your new one-stop shop for all your grocery and household needs. Come shop and save on dry goods, fruit and vegetable. We're your ultimate meat market and supplier of household appliances. Our addition of a deli for hot meals and snacks makes us your ultimate one-stop shop. Remember, we're the place to shop and save. Come check us out today, Victoria Street, Grenville, St. Andrew.
Welcome to Caracou, small in size, rich in spirit. As you step off the boat, you're greeted by smiling faces and warm island vibes. Your adventure begins here. Need a cozy place to stay? The Mermaid Beach Hotel has been a favorite for years. Waterfront views, clean comfort, and located in the town. In Bogles, the Roundhouse Cottages offers rustic charm with a touch of elegance. A peaceful hideaway surrounded by nature. Prefer something private? Dowe Island Villas gives you space, sea breeze, and a home away from home feel. Wake up to the sound of waves and views that stretch for miles. We're ready to welcome you. When are you coming?
Correct. Good evening to you again, visitors. I think I was caught a little bit off guard there because we've been chatting and I'm just trying to get up to speed on lots of the things. Andrea, we're coming in and management is important. So if you can share with us, what is the management model that's envisioned for this new hospital?
So I will say that we are still in the process of finalizing the management plan for the new hospital. Ultimately, what it is a government-run hospital. So the government is responsible for the management of the hospital. Whether the government ultimately decides to contract out the management of the hospital versus recruiting into the new hospital a management team, that's still up for debate. And I think we have to, as we move along towards operations, look more at the details of what we can afford to do. And
you're the project sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
you have now become intimately involved not only with the vision of Project Polaris, but the running of the General Hospital on Granite Town Road. Would you like to see the same management model on Granite Town Road transferred to Hopevale?
So I don't think that's a possibility. That could not work. And so when I say the option between the government maintaining overall responsibility for management, it would still not be under the existing model. And this is what leads us then to the need for statutization, because ultimately a hospital has to operate as its own have its own autonomy and accountability, and its own management structure and ability to hire and fire and hold persons accountable, its ability to manage its own assets and procurement, and really that's the only way for a hospital to run efficiently and to be able to achieve international best standards as we envision. So the existing hospital being run through the Ministry of Health essentially is just not the best system for running any hospital, and it's not. It is a lot of the reason that we have challenges with the running of the hospital. So that is why certainly we need to change the management system or the hospital structure system in the first instance to a statutized entity. That essentially means moving the assets required for the running of the hospital system into a state-owned entity, and so that it's not under the management of the ministry. And that allows it to have, as I said, its own accountability.
Let me ask, because there have been conversations in the public is that the hospital is going to be privatized. And if it's when you hear privatized, everybody gets nervous because healthcare, access to quality healthcare is a right. And if we hear privatization, we get worried. So can you just expound a little bit on the distinction between privatization and statutarization?
Right. So ultimately is who owns the hospital. And when we say statutization, it ultimately means that we create a special purpose vehicle, so an entity that starts with a CEO and has a management C-suite executives whose responsibility is to run the hospital, and they are accountable to a chief executive whose responsibility it is ultimately to run a successful hospital. But that statutory entity sits below the Ministry of Health, but it's not operated by the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Health staff and the normal public sector bureaucracy.
So I am thinking statutory bodies, so I am thinking utility, NAWASA, I am thinking healthcare support, social services, NIS.
Corp, NIS, yes. So we have several state-owned entities, statutorized entities already in the government system, and they just operate independently with reporting into their line ministry, versus a private entity which is ultimately owned by a shareholder who then holds the accountability of the entity on its terms, which is oftentimes a bottom line. When we're speaking about shareholders, we often speak about revenue. Right. But in this case, the shareholder, the beneficiary of the hospital, is the government whose intention and focus is on providing health care to the people of Grenada.
Okay. Quite a bit during the last couple of days, we heard that thus far we had 22 million was the number being bantered around, 22 million being spent on Project Polaris, and there hasn't been a block laid as yet. Just clarify for the public, one, the accuracy of the 22 million, and what are some of the investments that have been made thus far to get this far?
Right. So I will say certainly a lot of work has been done, and it means the money has been spent to put together the plans necessary for Project Polaris. You certainly cannot start making your plans when you put a shovel in the ground or a brick on the ground. And so we've spent a lot of time making sure that we have done the right planning, that we understand what are the right services that we need so that we can create the right designs for the hospital. We have purchased the property. We've done technical assessments and studies of the property. We've hired a design team that's begun to work with us to lay out the master site plan and the concept of the hospital design as we move forward with further design. We've been working with, of course, Mount Sinai has been with us since November of last year, doing in the first instance a gap assessment, and then that led into the quality improvement initiative, which is the work that they're now doing at the existing hospital for the last 10 months or so. That's also a very important work stream that leads towards when we open the hospital being ready to service the population. We have been working with Mount Sinai not just on the standards and policies and procedures and training at the existing hospital, but they also work with us in an advisory capacity as we build the new hospital and as we make plans to build the new hospital. One of our aspirations and goals is that the new hospital will become JCI accredited. This is Joint Commission International accreditation. To become JCI accredited, it's a process, and then it's an ongoing, continuing check. And it really is a process that is done by the international body that comes and through a long-term process of reviewing and seeing how the hospital is operating, can then attest that the standards and operating procedures meet international standards. And so to be able to achieve JCI accreditation, you need to, in the first instance, have the right infrastructure. You can't achieve JCI accreditation if your facility is substandard, for example. And so even the consultation that we need is necessary at this stage to make sure that if that's what we're driving towards, we don't misstep in the early stages and design the wrong institution for the international standards that we want to achieve. So we have experts such as Mount Sinai, Perkins and Wills, which is the master site planner, who's also an international hospital design with a significant experience in the space, has also been working with us. We've had Deloitte and Touche with their base in Trinidad working with us on our business plan and our medical tourism plan. So a lot of research has gone into that as we make plans for what are we going to be able to services today versus what are we building on. So it's a lot of work with various
And all of these things you mentioned is pay for play.
Pay for play. You've got to pay for expertise and for the right strategic partnerships and guidance.
If you can expand a little bit on the Mount Sinai relationship, because it is pay for play. So I know that you highlighted some of the things. Is there additional things that Mount Sinai would have brought to the table in order for us to move towards fulfilling that vision?
Right. So there is quite a bit going on with the relationship with Mount Sinai. As I said, we selected them as our long-term strategic partner. We also engaged them to start working with us now on quality improvement. But as our long-term strategic partner, they have agreed to collaborate with us to essentially open a hospital that is branded. So it's the Grenada General Hospital, for example, in affiliation with Mount Sinai. And we know that Mount Sinai has an excellent reputation for delivering excellent health care. And so what it means is that they're invested right from the start in making sure that we improve our service delivery, and they will always maintain that investment and oversight of the quality of service at the new hospital because they will be invested. It carries their name. There it is.
Okay.
And so that's the main role of Mount Sinai as regards the new hospital, is to ensure that our quality and standard of service, health service delivery remains high.
Okay. A couple of things here. Will they be part of the management team moving forward?
Possibly, but we haven't yet confirmed exactly what would be the management.
And is it one of, and let me just make a distinction here just for clarity, management team versus board of directors? And I'm making the distinction because if we have a statutory body, there'll be a board of directors that's appointed essentially by the minister and the cabinet.
Right.
And then there'll be the management team, will be boots on the ground with your CEO and so moving. If we are to pitch or you are to speculate, you shouldn't be, but is it at the board level or at the management level do you see Mount Sinai coming in?
We would certainly love to have, having Mount Sinai at the management level would be great for service. It would also be very expensive. So that's part of the discussion that we have to weigh and determine what's the best model. We have them, as I say, by virtue of the collaboration agreement that we've already engaged in with them, we have them in a position of oversight as regards all, as I say, safety and quality service matters. So they have that level of authority over matters that have to do with quality and safety. But if they, to give them essentially the contract to manage boots on the ground, be the C-suite executive staff of the hospital, that's a conversation that we have not yet finalized.
Okay. People will be curious because I'm still going back. I was about to move on from the 22 million, but I'm going back to it deliberately. As we engage, what do these types of contracts typically cost? I mean, the expertise that we are engaging, the Deloitte and Touche, the Mount Sinai, and the like. Broad strokes, no violation of confidentialities, but broad strokes in summation, what this type of investment typically look like?
So all of the quoted partners are professionals with high expertise in their areas of expertise, and they're all with us for a long-term engagement. So they're not insignificant fees, but we would have gone through a rigorous process before selecting each of these partners. We would have gone through a negotiation to get the fees down, to make sure that we tighten the scope and keep the fees as low and reasonable as possible. We continue that fight as we continue on engaging with our partners, but that's always a part of the dance that we like to do with them, make sure that we are getting the best bang for buck. But it's not set in stone going forward. I think we've said, for example, for Mount Sinai, we expect to, over the next coming years with their advisory services, spend approximately $2 million per year in the advisory services that they're giving towards the build of the new hospital, for example. So, I mean, there's money that has to be spent to engage the professionals, but we, as I said, we've done it, I think, responsibly, quite responsibly, which in part I would say a thank you to the DPS of the Ministry of Finance, who has kept us quite... I
know Siobhan well.
Yeah, she doesn't slide. Managing
statutory bodies oversight for some time prior to this engagement, so yes.
And so it's one of the reasons we've put together a team that really is taking the approach to be as responsible as possible, but also understanding that we need expertise, right, and we need guidance, and we need to make sure that we get the right guidance, the right strategic elements to really plan and implement a project that is bespoke.
Please allow us to understand what JCI accreditation means, and how will that translate into monies for Grenada?
Okay, so JCI accreditation is an internationally recognized standard. And again, it's an institution that, through a process of reviewing standards and procedures over a period of time in an institution, will then give its opinion that the hospital is essentially following processes and procedures that meet internationally the highest international standards. And so they will have various categories that they're assessing against. And as I said, it's a process that takes no less than 3 years to achieve JCI accreditation, because it is a long-term process to...
But where I'm going is that I think as Grenada Grenadians, we understand accreditation. We understand accreditation of educational institutions. We understand the value of having an accredited institution because it attracts a different population to come in. So does JCI accreditation mean that non-Grenadians, for example, can leverage their insurance companies and coverage from outside of Grenada to come to use the facilities, and hence that's a new revenue stream, a new population that we can engage with?
So I think that the technicality is probably there with some insurance providers, but certainly from a reputational perspective that we gain that. So it's one thing to just say that we're in affiliation with Mount Sinai and they're here with us. But once we have JCI accreditation, then we independently have earned the right to say we and our healthcare service is and does meet international best standards. And then we're in a position to market to the world that if you want to do, whether it's, you know, from regular to more specialized services, it really helps to put Grenada on the map as a place where you can come to get trusted, reliable, good healthcare service.
I'm going to get to trusted, reliable, good healthcare service shortly, but speak a little bit as to the integration of primary care with Project Polaris, because as you said, it's a pillar. It's not the silver bullet.
That's right.
Right? So talk to us just a little bit so that we understand, because some individuals I've heard saying, you know, we can't have the healthcare in this state and we're building Project Polaris. So how do we integrate strengthening primary care with this vision of Project Polaris?
Right, so that's another major challenge. I think it's clear to us that Project Polaris itself, the operation of a new excellent hospital with good healthcare delivery, can't be successful unless we can strengthen primary care along with the building of the new hospital. Otherwise, we'll have overload at the hospital and it'll be doomed to failure. The government is obviously aware of this and is very much focused on improving and making primary health care better. The way that Project Polaris integrates and really contributes to this is through the same international standard learning. So right now the Mount Sinai team is doing quality improvement at the General Hospital, but really as we strengthen the capacity of staff, we should be able to take those learnings, internalize them, build systems, and trickle the same learnings through the system. And we're not just hoping that it happens, we're planning for it to happen.
And likewise, I would want you to be able to speak to, as you respond to the question, Princess Alice, Princess Royal, because those two secondary facilities, of course, will remain important.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's still a lot of work to do in this regard, but the discussion is at the table. How do we make sure that all of the institutions are going to be integrated into the upgrades that are happening? The statutization is not one hospital. The statutization is the healthcare system. So all the assets, meaning all of the, in the first instance, human resource capacity. But then it's the assets as well, because we're actually talking about creating the new institution. So what's the equipment, et cetera, and the facilities that are moving into this new state-owned entity. So it means we've now moved everything into a whole new organization, and we have the opportunity to rethink what's the right organization and make sure that we have a structure that allows for all of the quality improvement that's currently taking place at the General Hospital and plan for the new hospital will be able to be integrated into the healthcare system in a broader way.
$250 million US to build. How will Grenadians be able to afford this hospital? And I'm speaking of the Grenadian going to said hospital.
Right. So the starting point is that the General Hospital will continue to be the General Hospital, available for all Grenadian citizens. Grenada's reality today is that the government does contribute highly to subsidizing healthcare for Grenadians. That to some extent will continue, but we have to find a better system for it. We have to find a way to start collecting some money from persons who can afford it, and find a system so that we can then provide for persons who can't afford basic health care for persons who can't afford it. And this brings us to the government's commitment to a national health insurance plan, which is again absolutely essential for the universal health care that we envision for Grenada.
In order for you to be successful, and in order for your project sponsorship to have a sustainable legacy, we must have a NHI. How have you been agitating for there to be delivery on NHI in order for us to accomplish just that? Because we certainly would want to build a new facility in Hope Vale, and Grenadians have to go to Granitang Road. So how has been your sleepless nights and your agitation to ensure that there is delivery on NHI?
So that's one of the items that I would certainly have been adamant of harping on when we do have our, high-level strategic meetings amongst cabinet, subcommittee, and otherwise. And it's an agreed point. We need to see NHI implemented, and so progress has been made in that regard. And I am not the lead in NHI, but certainly, as we know, it's integral to the progress, to the success of
One would argue it's a pillar.
It is a pillar, well. I would say. And so I don't take my eyes off it, but I'm confident that it is advancing, and so we are confident that it will be ready and in line with Project Polaris.
Okay. Just say 12 years and counting. 12 years and counting, and Colin keeps
There's
saying
a few things we're catching
counting.
up on, but we're doing it, and we're doing it now, and we'll be guided by the North Star, and we'll get there.
Okay, excellent. Well, we said we were in the design phase, so we certainly would want to learn as to what this new facility would look like. What are the designs? How are we going to roll out this brand new facility? To speak to us to some of the new visions that we have on the design of the hospital.
Okay, so that's some of the exciting work that we've been embarking on.
And I believe do we have slides?
We have a few slides that I think we can share. Okay. Great. So let's recall that the government has purchased 83.9 acres of land. The hospital footprint is just over 10 acres of that land. You're seeing on the screen a visual of the medical city, and to the left there is where the hospital is. You'll see the
left with the three buildings.
With the three buildings and the area behind it, correct. And so the 84 acres has been parceled into various sections centered around park green areas. We've got the river that naturally runs through the project site that will be enhanced and beautified. A lot of focus has been placed on the flow and overflow of the river and water as it runs, and how we would manage with that. We have mapped out the master site in part to ensure that the area around the hospital remains controlled and fit for purpose. Again, understanding that we ended up with a hospital that with a city that is eventually evolved around it, and it's no longer available to us as a hospital really in as far as access. Controlling the entire area around this hospital ensures that for the next 50 years it will be fit for purpose, and it will have the right streams of traffic flow, etc. So there's a space here for a commercial center. There's after those buildings to the side, which are the hospital, there's a walkway that goes over to an annex area. That is where we envision having additional medical services, commercial space, teaching areas, research and bio labs. As you go further back in the site, you can see the actual topography of the site elevates, and so it's the elevated point that we've envisioned and planned to build a hotel. And when I say we plan to build a hotel, I guess this is a good time to say we the government don't plan to build the medical city. We're inviting private partners to come, and we think this is an excellent investment opportunity. the cornerstone of which is an excellent, climate-smart, resilient teaching hospital in affiliation with Mount Sinai that will be ultimately JCI accredited. And with that as the linchpin of the medical city, it really creates a dynamic investment opportunity for investors to come and build out the rest of the development, the hotel area, as well as retirement community and retirement living, again, which is made possible because we have the hospital as the cornerstone. But again, that is also a really excellent opportunity as a tourism product. So to have long-term tourists that come to Grenada and live in Grenada and take up residence essentially within the medical city is really the opportunity to build an economy around a hospital.
So if I'm to say there's a university, I believe, in True Blue, and lots of high-rise apartment buildings surrounding it by private investors, there is a climate-smart hospital in Hope Vale, and then instead of apartment buildings, we're looking at a hotel, we're looking at a retirement. In other words, there'll be structured development based on this master plan is the vision.
Indeed, and there is space even at the back for some residential, both staff quarters as well as student quarters. Again, we're looking at a hospital that needs somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 staff, as well as it will be a teaching hospital along with SGU, which means we will have students doing residency and rotating through. And so we've accommodated for or envisioned that we could also have some residential development within the medical city for students. Again, an opportunity for developers to come, investors to come and invest in Grenada.
Okay. We can't be all things to all men. So where have we been advised by Deloitte & Touche or otherwise where our comparative and competitive advantage would lie as we get into, and you hinted to it earlier, the medical tourism aspect?
So as far as what areas we would offer for medical tourism. So I think in the first instance, it's not about additional services. It's about excellent basic services. So our primary focus, again, is on delivering excellent quality healthcare at the General Hospital to the people of Grenada. And that is what builds on the proposition of even just providing for basic good health services at a general hospital in Grenada solves for not just Grenada's critical concern with health service, but much of the region. So rather than just thinking of a population of 100,000, we can begin considering the population of 600,000, the needs. And perhaps how can we become attractive as the first place choice for healthcare service to the surrounding region. So it's not all necessarily adding additional services. That is something that we wouldn't jump to too soon and confirm, because we have to focus on good quality care at the general hospital and see how the opportunities for additional services advance.
But you will appreciate that we will be worried as a population about the maintenance. We have seen things built and we have not budgeted appropriately for maintenance of it. Now, it almost makes no sense to make this type of investment if it's not on a sustainable pathway, and that's not our vision. And with a population of 112,000, and even if we pull in the entire OECS and it's a population of 600,000, there is primary care, there is secondary care in those other territories. Some of the other islands have gotten into medical tourism, so you can find oncology in Antigua. You can discover that there's an engagement in terms of fertility therapy, etc., in Barbados, right? So they're doing it. The question is, how will we distinguish ourselves so that we are attractive to Barbados and OECS, the wider Caribbean, and further afield? So
it starts with, for example, the JCI accreditation, because what you're speaking about are specialized services, and you said it yourself, we can't be all things to all men. We will never be able to provide all specialized services, and it is still worthy to engage in the discussions about centers of excellence within the region. region. Because I think that there's definitely an opportunity to have better service opportunities and coverage.
And therein lies my question, as we would have paid for that consultancy with Deloitte and Touche, where do they see our center of excellence, our competitive advantage lying? Because if we're going to design said hospital, we should be preparing for that center of excellence. And I hate that we will build it and then say we need to do orthopedic surgeries for professional athletes, and we're not ready.
Right.
So the question is, what are some of those areas, as we're in this discussion phase, we're being pointed to as competitive advantages and centers of excellence?
So I, again, would say I don't know that we've gotten to that point yet where we can identify the appropriate centers of excellence for Grenada to absolutely pursue. It will take, for example, even further engagement with the partners who will help us get there. It's not something that we can just envision on our own. The starting point as far as medical tourism is going to be good healthcare service delivery at the existing hospital, achieving JCI accreditation at the existing hospital. How we develop from there and where areas that we are able to develop in expertise will all have to factor into what can we add on as centers of excellence, how we finance additional components. And so what we have done is provisioned design, and we're only in the very early concept stage of hospital design, but we are contemplating what are going to be the opportunities to phase in additional services. And these days it's they're very fancy the way they do these planning things, and they have ways of keeping opportunities available without completely fitting out the design. So these are discussions that are still underway. The discussion about what's the appropriate center of excellence for Grenada is a longer term one. And in fact, we had a very interesting discussion with the World Bank, in fact, who have, through their consultancy, are doing some work in the region to understand exactly that. What are the areas of excellence that maybe already exist, and what are the opportunities, et cetera? And so that's an area that we'll continue working with them as they're doing studies and as we continue to do our own research to understand what's the best opportunity and positioning for Grenada as regards potentially a center of excellence in a specialized care type manner.
Let me just come back a little bit to the hotel. Were there any discussions with the GHTA on the hotel that is envisioned for the facility? Is the thinking getting local investment? Is the thinking going along with things like JCI accreditation and outward facing in terms of the enhancement of the facility, looking for an international brand that will come in and build, hopefully, and manage the facility?
So it's an open discussion still, and we're at the early stages of that engagement as well. We really had to focus on building a vision for the hospital that's believable, and I think we've just gotten there. Then we moved on to the stage of actually having our master site plan built out, and so what you're seeing is still also early concept, but it allows us to now go and start having discussions with potential investors, because it's not, so what we can show them is a beautiful site, a beautiful Grenada, all the usual wonderful reasons why Grenada is an excellent place for a hotel, plus now the medical city, extra driven traffic into the area, a particular reason why this hotel might be of interest to families of patients, either of the hospital but also of the retirement home. So the propositions are building on each other, and that allows us the opportunity to go to market really and look for investors, because again, we need to invite international or local, or we're just looking for investors who are interested in helping to develop, who have the financing, the expertise, the experience to do so.
Okay, it's time for our final break, so we will take a break, and when we come back, we certainly invite you to weigh in on the conversation, ask questions to get additional insights. 440-1252, that will be the number.
Are you looking for a reliable, affordable, and customer-friendly pharmacy? Look no further than Hills and Valley Pharmacy, the nation's leading healthcare products and services provider. We are committed to serving you at convenient locations. Find an extensive and affordable selection of prescription and over-the-counter drugs and medical supplies at Church Street, Hillsborough, Carriacou, Jubilee Street, Grenville, St. Andrew, near the bus terminal, and Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George. Our committed team is always available to offer valuable assistance for managing your health and wellness. Discover the additional benefits of our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street and our Medcare Center on Grenville Street, where we provide in-house physiotherapy, massage therapy, doctor consultations, and eye care services. Our commitment is to satisfy all your healthcare needs, including competitive prices, loyalty rewards, and special discounts for seniors. Contact us at 435-6904 and WhatsApp 535-4734. Choose Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Remember, your health is our business.
Distributed by Echo Blue Limited. Visit us on the Lansopine Main Road or call 405-4818.
Spare your pocket, spare the earth, always act when let you come first. Save energy, save a time, we choose your wattage and we choose your time. When you use appliances, make sure you buy energy efficient every time. Spare your pocket, spare the earth, always act when let you come first. Spare your pocket, spare the earth, always act when let you come first.
Are you thinking of where to shop this Christmas? Then look no further. The best place to shop is at Dominic Shopping Center, Guelph St. John. There you'll find everything you need. Name it, they have it. From household items, toys, decorative lights, appliances, portable AC units, cosmetics, hair and skin products, formal and casual wear, shoes, slippers and sandals, bed sheets, kitchenware, greeting cards and more. With 2 locations, Central and Depredine Streets, Guelph St. John. Call 444-9221 and 444-8804. The management and staff of Dominic Shopping Center wish everyone an enjoyable Christmas and a prosperous 2026. Dominic Shopping Center, the best in the West. Asian Spa and Wellness Cafe, nestled in the serene surroundings of Le Phare Bleu, Calivini Bay, St. George, is the perfect spot to unwind and relax after a stressful event or when you wish to spoil yourself in the most comfortable and relaxing atmosphere. They offer many different massage modalities, including thigh hammer, washer and cupping, signature thigh deep tissue massage, also facials to depuff and tighten pores, deep cleanse full body, hair and nail treatments and more. Take a walk down to the cafe for authentic Thai breakfasts and delicious traditional dishes. Choose from our special mixed drinks, both hot and cold. Opens daily. Visit Asian Spa and Wellness Cafe today, Le Phare Bleu, Calivini Bay, St. George, because you will not regret you did.
Megaforce Promotions, in proud collaboration with Ariza Credit Union and GBN, presents Grenada's biggest flea market at Monroe Plainfield, Saturday 20th and Sunday 21st December, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. Shop unbeatable deals on bed and curtain sets, appliances, household items, electrical and plumbing supplies, toys, Christmas decorations, clothing and shoes, perfumes and colognes, wines and drinks, and just about everything else. Plus a kids area, live entertainment, food and drink stalls. Want to be a vendor? Call 440-4646 to book your spot before they're all gone. Admission $5. 2 full days of deals and more deals. Shopping, fun and savings. Monroe's Plainfield Flea Market. Don't miss it.
Welcome back, viewers and listeners. We're speaking about Project Polaris with the project sponsor, Ambassador Andrea St. Bernard. Of course, you can weigh in 440-1252. That's the number that you will call. Andrea, just share with us if there is an intended mix, as it were, between health tourism, teaching, as well as the secondary and tertiary services that will be available to Grenada at this new facility. Well, to Grenadians at this new facility.
So the mix, as I said, starts from the position of what are the basic clinical services that we need to best service the population. As we add additional partners to the broader medical city, not just what is the government delivering, which is the basic general services, as many of the services available at a secondary hospital, as much specialized service as the government can manage. But again, as we said, it just won't be everything for all people. Because we know we're building a beautiful facility on a beautiful site and that we can provide for additional wonderful medical facilities, we have the opportunity to, again, look for partners who can come and also offer additional medical services. And this is private partnerships with the government that offers the government revenue opportunity. Okay. So again, between additional medical services, between the partnership that the government has with SGU to create a teaching hospital, that again is a business arrangement that offers a revenue stream to the government to be able to offer or to continue operation of the hospital.
We do have a caller online, so let's take that caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Yeah, just quickly, I know the lady's mother, Brenda Court, she was my house captain, and the father was psycho. We worked in the bank together. Anyway, what I was saying, the origin of the hospital is not 2012, my friend. Because I am a foundation member of the National Democratic Congress, and since 1990, we had plans for a new hospital that some part it would have been in, and actually Prince Lee St. Louis was the minister at the time, right? And it would have been some part by where the mental home is. So that idea for a new hospital is not 2012 under the NDC. The previous NDC, since 1990. Well, my main concern is this. I hear Deacon saying originally about something about medical tourism. Forget about medical tourism, because all over the Caribbean, they have people like construction and all these things. Then I hear Deacon talk about staturization, and I want to believe somebody asked Max, subject to correction. He said that how people could pay, when they asked how much people could pay, he said about how they pay for water and light and telephone, and these things are staturized. But I'm telling all this straight away, the average Grenadian would not be able to pay for medical services with this new hospital, right? So take it and tell Deacon, put it in his pipe that people want to be able to access free care, because they have a lot of poor people in Grenada. The last thing, right now the debt to GDP is 73%. When all they go with that loan, with 250 million US, it comes to 600 something thousand. You all will be in, right now, all is in breach of the central bank, because I know about these things, right? 60%.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, caller. And just zeroing in on where we were. How is the hospital going to be maintained, and the revenue streams that would allow for access for Grenadians? Because that's important, and that's our concern.
That's it. So, I mean, absolutely 100% the new hospital will service the population of Grenada. The new hospital is replacing the old hospital and has to be able to service the people of Grenada, and that's the priority focus service and purpose for the hospital. We need national health insurance. And when we have national health insurance in place, it means everybody has universal basic health care. And so that means everybody can come to the hospital and get basic health care under the National Health Insurance Scheme. It also means that we would have put into place a system that allows us to take payments, which is not something that we really have working at the existing hospital. So we absolutely have to strengthen and upgrade our system overall, our healthcare system overall, to be able to receive even insurance funding. So a lot of persons attend the hospital and get care at the existing hospital, and they even have insurance that's willing to cover that care. But because we don't have adequate systems in place to take that money, we forego the opportunity to get that revenue stream, and instead the government is there subsidizing the care. So by strengthening and building these systems, we absolutely can create the opportunity to take payment where payment can be paid, persons who can afford for the care. When we have persons visiting Grenada, for example, they would certainly be in a position to use their own health insurance. And that then provides a revenue stream that helps us to care for and provide the basic health care under the National Health Insurance to make sure that there's universal health care for all Grenadians.
Okay. And that actually just speaks to the point of service being delivered. But from what I'm hearing, there are additional revenue streams, because if you mention, and you mentioned earlier, the teaching facility, then whoever that institution may be using the hospital facilities to teach, they have to pay for play as well.
They have to pay for play as well.
Right.
So that's another opportunity. And so while building additional even HR opportunity through the teaching component, so we have medical students that are at least adding some additional hands to the medical professionals, but also because we have an environment, an institution that they're happy to extend their learning in. We are keeping Grenadians here for a longer period of time, and we know our SGU students are some of our favorite tourists because they're here for a long time, spending theirs or their parents' money. We have them here for longer during residency. The school has to pay for that opportunity to provide that residency program. So that's an additional revenue stream and HR capacity for the new hospital. So these components work together to allow us to strengthen, as I say, the existing system so that we can provide better health care for all Grenadians.
Okay, we have another caller online. Good evening, caller, and welcome. It seems as though we lost that caller. And my understanding from a previous presentation, it is, yes, SU's students, because that's something that we have, but I think the facility allows for other allied health disciplines to have training facilities, whether it's on-site or otherwise, and also utilize the facility.
Absolutely. And so we would also look for increased research capacity, and by having facilities that offer better, more sophisticated research and labs, I think we also have the opportunity to gain even in grant funding, for example.
Okay. Tell us how the vision of integrating Grenada's economic development with this hospital. So St. George's University contributes a significant portion to the GDP, and that's one level of integration, got it. But if we're speaking research, are we looking now at products that are readily available in Grenada that will have medicinal value? So our nutmegs, our cocoa, we are the Isle of Spice. So some of those naturally occurring and cultivated products being used for research and application to the healthcare industry. Is that the vision?
That's what we hope to see grow through the medical city. And for that to happen, we are looking for our local partners, as well as financiers and international developers. But absolutely, these are opportunities that exist that we need to now find the way to pull together the expertise, the financing, the experience, and make it all happen.
When would be your timeline to forge these partnerships? Because what I am hinting at and guarding against is that the doors open and there's a funding gap for 4 or 5 years because the rest of the city isn't built out, the revenue streams aren't there, and hence we start having challenges with maintenance, access to healthcare, etc. And then we're saying, oh my, same old.
No, I think we're on track to pull everything together. We've begun early stage discussions with potential investors with interest in various elements of the medical city. The reality is, as I said, the basis pillar upon which the medical city proposition is based is the building of a hospital. So we have to be able to demonstrate that we have a hospital, that it's going to be a good hospital, and that it's a feasible plan that we have. And now that we're just able to do that, and we've gotten our experts to help us with our design,
and we can continue to show off the design,
and we
so
can
that
show off and we can speak to them. So now is the point where they can actually see, but they would not need for most of the development, all of the development, each component, whether it's the hotel, the retirement home, the residential component, none of it needs as much time to construct as the hospital. So we have time essentially to start the hospital construction, which is the priority, the main piece, and then begin the build out of the rest of the medical city and still catch everything up.
Okay, so we're seeing the design on screen, and if you can just give us some timelines, because you said that we have time, but if you can just give us some timelines, what are we looking at before we see the cutting of the ribbon and the turning of the keys?
So I can speak timeline to the hospital at this point only. We will break ground next year. We are planning
first quarter, second quarter, third quarter.
I'm really hoping it'll be by the end of the first quarter. That's our hope, but it'll be within the first half of the year. We are planning for 3 years of construction, so that we will be operational by 2029.
2029 operational. Okay. All right. It's almost time for us to wrap up, so I will give you the opportunity to, whether it's closing comments and certainly some encouragement. So you have closing comments to the general public, and you have appeal to potential investors to build out the rest of the city in time for us to be able to have a fuller outlay in 2029.
Okay, well, thank you for that opportunity. So to the public, I want to say, please continue to come along with us on this journey. We have quite a road ahead of us still for the building of the hospital. We are very committed to building a new hospital that is fit for purpose to provide excellent health care for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. I want to take the opportunity again to say a very special thank you to the Ministry of Health, to the Ministry of Finance, who have each been working very closely with the Project Polaris team. More recently, and much more intensely as we move forward, the Ministry of Infrastructure has also worked very closely with us. But I also want to make a very special thank you call to the management team at the hospital, who have been working diligently for the better part of all of 2025 to really see significant improvements in the quality of care at the General Hospital. Just last week we held our first annual Healthcare Excellence Awards, and we celebrated all of the accomplishments of the hospital team in achieving quality improvement and really pushing ahead with that momentum. And so I want to thank the hospital management team for your part in helping to see the success of Project Polaris. Stay tuned. There's a lot more to come. We will have some announcements to make, I think, shortly when we can firm up our financing. We will have more news about our design as we move forward, and so I hope you'll have me back again to speak more about Project Polaris.
Ambassador Andrea Seminard, thank you so very much for coming, for sharing about this project. We certainly learned a lot as we move through. We know it's a process. We sometimes will get impatient with you, so bear with us as we're impatient with with you. But we are all excited about this opportunity, and certainly we want to make sure that it is done well and in a sustainable way. All right. So thank you very much for coming, for sharing, and to you, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute pleasure you're being with us here on a Monday evening. We thank you always because you're the ones that make this show possible. So my name is Colin Dowe. I wish you all a wonderful evening and look forward to our wrap-up show, which comes next week, Monday, which will be the last show for the evening. So looking forward to being with you in the next 6 days, 22 and a half hours. Take good care. Have a wonderful one. Thank you much.
Thank you very much.